Hi, everybody. How are you doing? I'm Dr. Gail, and this is Barbara Lamb. Thanks for joining us today. And Barbara, thanks for being here. While everybody's coming in, I'm going to tell them quite a bit about you. I had you're an ET experiencer, past life therapist, a UFO expert, crop circle researcher, lecturer. You've been on TV, on Gaia and History Channel, and I mean your list just goes on and on and on and on. Barbara, you're so impressive, and I appreciate you being here, sharing your information with everybody. And you've got certainly the right people that are interested in these kind of things.
Good.
But let me say hello to who's here in the chat right now, and then
Sure.
we'll get down to the information you have to share. Hey,
Okay.
Diane G. Hey, Suzanne. Hey, Dream Journey One. Thanks for being here today. Hey, White Dragon. I kind of halfway reading what you were saying. Hey, Suzanne. Hey, Faye Cole. Hey, Gina M. Thanks for being here. Hey, Teresa. Hey, Amanda Carroll. Hey, Standing in Light with Annie Bear. Thanks for being here. Hey, Lisa. Hey, Julie. Hey, MEJ. Thanks everybody for being here. And we're going to be getting into crop circles. And so first, I had first question. Hey, son of what? I had the first question for Barbara. Before any of y'all have any questions about crop circles, I'm taking the first one. Hey, Mary Lauer. Hey, Akila. I just
It's
want,
you're right.
I wanted to know how you started in crop circles. What got you interested? Where did you even begin? I mean, you've got so many years of doing that and researching it. Where did you even start?
Well, it happened in one split second that I got into this. And that is that in 1990, I was attending a whole life expo, which had many, many lectures of many different subjects. And I was looking through the program guide um, halfway through that conference and looking for the next workshop that I would attend. And I noticed in the program guide that there was a little blurb about an upcoming lecture, and it had a picture. And instead of the picture in the program guide, it had the picture of the speaker, which all the other speakers had. But instead of that, it had just a funny little design of some sort. And I thought, oh, that's different. What's that? So I looked at the title of that lecture, said something about mysterious patterns happening in the fields of Britain. And somehow I just felt a big flash of light going through my body, like, whoa, that. And I read the little blurb then, and it talked about crop circles, which I had never heard of at that point.
Who
This was,
was doing the lecture?
yeah. Well, then, anyway, I had this big burst of light going through my body, like, oh, I've got to go and hear that lecture. I wonder what that's about. Never having heard of crop circles before. And I was not doing my extraterrestrial work yet, but I had been uh, actually guided by a voice that I would be working with people who'd had experiences with extraterrestrial beings. So, but that had not developed yet at that particular time when I saw the notice about the lecture. So, anyway, I went to the lecture and I was so impressed with seeing photographs and videotapes from the speaker who'd been to England the summer before. That would have been 1989. And or actually 1990 that he had gone. And I was just overwhelmed with inspiration and excitement. And I found myself slapping my thigh and saying to myself, that's it. I'm going to England to check that out. So the next summer, which was 1991, I did go. And in the meantime, between November 1990, when I saw that lecture. And then several months later, the next July, um, I did some research as much as I could. Now, this was before we were all researching on the internet. I don't I don't remember if I even had a computer yet at that time in 1991. But anyway, one way or another, I just found different resources about it and different people in England who were involved in this whole phenomenon. So I started corresponding by postal letter with some of those people. And there was a man over there named George Wingfield, and he was very, very active in investigating the crop circle phenomenon. And he very kindly wrote back and said, go to Wiltshire County, England, which is in southern England, and go to a particular pub out in the country, and a big old stone, wonderful building because of a Gothic building. And that's where we meet, the Center for Crop Circle Studies in England. We meet on a certain Thursday evening.
Is there such a thing in the U.S.? A meeting
Yeah,
where
I didn't do that yet, but there was one in Los Angeles and also somewhere in Ohio at that time, maybe more now. And so anyway, I went to England and I asked my English husband to uh, drive me around because he was very familiar with driving on the left side of the road. So he very kindly, even though he wasn't particularly interested in these patterns, these crop circles, but he indulged me, drove me around, and I met some of those people at that pub and asked one person after the other uh, about where I could go to see a crop circle and go into it. So I went into the first one and met somebody else who directed me to the next crop circle, and so on. It went on for a whole week. And I went into, probably 8 or 9 crop circles. And in each one, I always met somebody who was studying the phenomenon who would tell me where another one was located. And not knowing the territory at all, sometimes it was a challenge to find the right field in the right location and figure out a way to get into the field. In some cases, having to climb a fence or go under a barbed wire fence and crawl along the ground, or sometimes easy peasy opening a gate. Anyway, it was quite an adventure. And I was absolutely hooked on this. After my 8th crop circle, my husband and I had an engagement to meet his daughter further down in England, and we had to leave. And I realized that I was really, really disappointed that I wouldn't be able to stay and go into even more crop circles. So I determined right then and there that, okay, I'm coming back next year and I'm going to figure out a way to drive here and conduct myself, not have to inconvenience my husband, just do it on my own, which I did. So that started 27 years of going to crop circles every summer in England. And as it developed, of course, I met more and more people each time I went there, and everywhere I went that had to do with crop circles. So I was really gathering, quite a community of really wonderful people from all over the United States and also from many different countries, particularly from Germany and Holland.
really?
So yeah, and they were really very wonderful people. Some of them were English, of course, too. But I was so surprised as I got more into the phenomenon, I was surprised that more of the English people who lived right there in crop circle territory, that more people weren't interested and didn't bother going, which is a good thing because the crop circles would have been terrifically crowded.
Right.
And even the landlady of my wonderful bed and breakfast that I stayed in right there in crop circle territory. Uh, and she knew that, there were those of us who were coming over every summer to simply to visit the crop circles. And we would talk about it so excitedly over breakfast, and she would hear all that. But she never really cared about it herself. Finally, after about 10 years, my English friend, whom I shared the room with, often very good friend, she and I sort of kidnapped our landlady, the B&B, and temporarily, in a very friendly way, and took her up the road to see a crop circle that had formed overnight there. And she thought, okay, good. Well, now I've seen one. Now you don't have to pester me about seeing crop circles anymore.
Well, it was the
She,
same in Mountain Shasta when I lived there. The locals, that it wasn't anything. They weren't that interested in the magic of the mountain.
no, they weren't. And yet, some of the very best, finest crop circle researchers have been English. So there are a few English people who really got into it.
Well,
And
here's Diane asking a question: why aren't they interested? Which is a good question, but I couldn't even answer you about the people that are in Mount Shasta because they weren't really interested in. I guess when you grow up around it, do you feel the energy? The energy's already there. If you're
well,
not, if you're coming from outside to there, you're feeling the energy.
that's
It's all
a
I
very
can think of.
good point. Very good point. Yeah. So anyway, it was mostly us Americans and from people from other countries who were actually making a point of going out and finding the crop circles and finding a way into them and being in them, rather than English people. But that's okay. It was all very, very friendly. And in those early days, we used to go. We crop circle enthusiasts were meeting often in the evenings at a particular country pub right by a canal and big fields around, and with a view of the beautiful white horse carved into the hillside there, near Alton Barnes in Wiltshire. And we would meet there and have a meal, and just talk about crop circles and share anything that we knew about them and where they were. And there was a big map on the wall there, and people would mark where they had discovered a new crop circle, and that kind of made it easy. Also, there were some people, uh, one was English, or a couple of them were English, one was German, one was from the Netherlands, who would get up early in the morning just independently because they were very hooked on this phenomenon, and they would rent a plane or fly with a pilot and go up about 2 or 3 thousand feet and fly over all of those fields in that area of Wiltshire and Hampshire counties, and notice when there was a new crop circle that had appeared overnight. And and then,
White Dragon's asking you about, has anyone ever filmed one of the circles being formed? I don't think so.
well, there have actually been some witnesses. In fact, there's a videotaped witness, so I'll tell you about those. And I'm glad you asked that question. Um, Back in about 1989 or 90, there was a whole crew of people. Now, they were all English, or mostly English, and they went out late one night to a particular field where it seemed like that field would be a really good candidate for a beautiful crop circle to be made in. And they wanted to catch whatever this phenomenon was. So they had high powered cameras, videos, photographers, everybody very professional. And there were about 20 of these people, and sound people, people who were experts in sound and had sound recording equipment. So they went out, and around midnight, I think, because these crop circles always seem to be made during the nighttime, during complete darkness. So they went out and they had, big flashlights and everything. And they were poised and sort of waiting and chatting and waiting. And then suddenly, in the dark of night, they heard they described it as sort of a buzzing electrostatic clicking sort of noise coming from one end of the field that they were standing right next to, looking into. So they didn't see anything, but they heard like a big oncoming of sound coming toward them. And about where they were, this sound out in the field they were looking into laid a crop circle. Now, they didn't know that because it was so dark there.
Well, it sounds like to me you're hearing the clicking noise that it could be the praying mantis or the mantis beings.
Well, yes, except that, I mean, that's a good surmise, but it had more of an electrostatic
Okay.
too. There was clicking as part of it, but this electrostatic, so they didn't see anything.
Yeah, Leah's asking about that. She's saying, are there any particular race that are leaving these circles?
So anyway, when after this sound came to them and made the crop circle, which they realized a few hours later when the daylight came, but then the sound retreated in the same direction, but they never could figure out exactly what that was. So then there have been other people individually who just sort of by happenstance happened to be out walking along a country wheat field or oats or barley field or canola field. And there was a couple doing a country walk one afternoon, and they looked out on this wheat field they were next to, and they saw kind of like a rippling of the top of the crop coming toward them and then stopping out in the middle of the field. And then they could see little bits of the wheat stems and stalks and seeds shooting up kind of like from a circular area. And it seemed like those wheat plants were being laid down. And then the rippling returned again. So they didn't see what was doing the rippling, and it was only in that specific pathway, but it seemed to be laying down the crop into a crop circle. They went out later after the rippling went away and said, oh my goodness, look at this. It's a perfect circle laid down. That must have been what we were watching happening. So again, no physical object did they see. And there have been other people too, particularly people who live in England and might be out having a nice country walk. And they have described also not seeing an object, but just seeing a swirling out in the field and little bits of the crop flying up in the air. And only for a few seconds too, by the way. And then the swirling would stop. So now other people have, I know of 3 other instances where somebody actually witnessed a beam of light coming down from the sky in the middle of the night, just like a white beam of light, very specifically in one area of the field, not all over the field. And then suddenly the light was gone. That one man was riding a bicycle along the field in Glastonbury, outside of Glastonbury, England. And he was around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and it was just beginning to get a little darker, not really bright sunlight. And he noticed as he was riding by a crop field that there was a beam of light coming down from above, from way up in the sky. And he looked up, and there was something metal, uh, the late afternoon sun shining on it a bit. Um, and the beam seemed to be coming from whatever that metal thing was up in the sky. So that was a good witnessing. And there was a man in Holland who looked out of his upper story window, bedroom window, one night, and very, very dark night, no moon, didn't even see any stars. And but he did see a beam of light coming from the sky, coming right down to a particular spot in the big crop field out in back of his home. And the next morning he went out and noticed that in that particular place, it kind of lined it up with where he had seen it from the window. And there was a swirled circle, a crop circle. So, there have been things of that sort. And then I think the ultimate vision or viewing, shall we say, of the making of a crop circle was in 1996 at a big, wonderful, flat wheat field. And that field was spread out below a big hillside, very, very, very steep hill, which is called Oliver's Castle, even though it's not a built castle. It was sort of like an ancient hill fort, which they called castle. Anyway, a young man was sleeping there on that hillside, way up on the hill, camping all by himself, just had a sleeping bag. Fortunately, he had his video camera, his camcorder, right next to him. And at about 4 o'clock in the morning, he, for some reason, woke up sensing something, not hearing it or anything, but just sensing something, and grabbed his video camera and pointed it down to the field, and fortunately caught the footage of a crop circle being made. And in that case, there was an orb of white light down in the field making a circle, just kind of slowly moving around the circle. And then a second or two later, he noticed that there were two more bright white orbs coming from a hedge at the opposite end of that field, coming through the field over where that other circle was circling around. And as it came over that area, there were not only that circle being laid down already, but 6 perfectly spaced, sized spokes coming out from that circle with a little ring on each one. And those orbs went just very quickly, just seconds, over that area. You could see the laying down of the crop, and then it went back around the other end of that hedge on the other side of the field. And then immediately, 2 more orbs, or maybe the same ones, we don't know, 2 white orbs came over that area again. And then the 6 spokes were extended out, just as these were just flying briefly over, just like that. And they extended out with another ring at the end to make a beautiful crop circle. And if you would like, I can show you a picture.
Oh, yeah.
While we're talking about it. Yeah. Can you see that? I can't see it because it's between.
Yeah, just we can see half of it, which is good. Yeah, it's pretty intricate. Thank you.
And the whole making of that crop circle pattern took 7 seconds.
Oh my gosh, 7 seconds.
And it has been assumed that many of the crop circles, some are even much more elaborate than that one, even though that one is perfect and beautiful in itself. But even the more elaborate ones with many, many more features, it's still assumed that they are made in just a low number of seconds. So it must be that somehow that pattern is completely planned out before that. So anyway, the orbs have been seen in quite a number of crop circles and photographed in some of them, and that they can even be there in the day. There are some videotapes that people took on the spot when you see an orb moseying along over the countryside.
Well, the
There,
thing is we all have orbs that are coming around us all the time too.
yes, yes, we do. And sometimes an orb will be moseying along. There's a lovely videotape of one sort of trailing along, probably about 20 feet above the ground, and then visiting a crop circle that was already made.
Oh,
That happened
okay.
in 99. Uh, anyway, there are still photos also. In fact, I have one where I was in a crop circle, and when I got the picture back, this was before digital cameras, so we actually sent films off to be developed. And when I got the picture back, I noticed that in one of those small crop circles, part of a larger pattern, there was a white orb that was there right where I was,
Oh,
but I
wow.
didn't see it. And that's happened with a few other people I know when they had a picture of them taken in a crop circle later on after developing, they realized, oh my gosh, there was an orb there with me. So orbs seem to be one way that crop circles are made. This invisible sound frequency seems to be another way. A beam of light coming from above seems to be a way of making a crop circle. There's a biophysicist who is no longer with us, but a wonderful Dr. Levengood in Michigan. And he had a biophysical lab and very kindly volunteered to test many, many plants that researchers were taking from crop circles themselves and sending to him. Now, you've probably heard that there is a man made phenomenon going on too, here and there, and has been since 1990. And so, in other words, some of the crop circles are hoaxed
Yeah.
by men. And yet I think personally that most of the crop circles are of this genuine unknown phenomenon, which is why they're more beautiful and more intriguing. So anyway, some of the researchers sent plants from man-made crop circles to Dr. Levengood, and then in separate bundles, separate packages, they would send plants from what we consider the real, the genuine crop circles. So he did testing of thousands and thousands of plants for quite a number of years until he passed away. But he concluded, he got very, very interested in this whole phenomenon and its effect on plants, because that's what his work was professionally all about. So he determined, he made a theory, and I think it's a good theory, that there's an energy plasma vortex which circles around, comes down to the earth from the upper atmosphere. And when it would hit the ground in a crop field, it would draw up the moisture under the soil, creating a steam effect. And that
Wow.
meant that the plants could just be pliable and bend over without any breaking or cracking. or damaged at all, as they would be bent over right above ground level, inch or so above ground level. And therefore, in the genuine plants made in this particular way, according to his theory, the plants would continue living and growing and ripening as they were lying along the ground and coming to full maturity.
Do they
And he
stay?
found that
Do they stay on the ground permanently? Like, do they stay laid down the whole time? They don't ever go standing back up again?
the only time they go standing back up is if a crop circle is made in the month of May, when the crop is very, very green and very young, and not terrifically tall, maybe just a foot or so tall. And those plants tend to go somewhat up as if reaching for the sun. But then people come in and walk around and they get laid down again. But crop circles that are made in June, July, August, maybe early September, that's the crop circle season, that once they are laid down and they're not the young green plants that are starting to turn brown, they stay down. They don't seem to reach up to the sun, but they do keep growing and ripening and coming to maturity.
So like the following year, when the crops are growing again, is that crop circle still there?
Thank you so much for asking that, because that's a very important point I like to bring out. Yes, after the crops are growing and then harvested, which in most of the crops, the harvesting happens by the middle of August or a little bit later in some cases. So, except for the corn plants, they keep growing until late September before they are harvested. And they keep producing corn cobs until late December. Anyway, whatever the crop is, once it has gotten to the harvesting stage, it gets cut down, harvested. And then after that, in the fall months, this is in England, according to their seasons, that once the harvesting has happened, the farmers go out and they they till the soil, they turn it over, mulch it under, so that the little remaining scraps of the plants having been harvested, that all gets mixed in with the soil, getting the soil ready for planting the seeds a few months later, usually in January or February.
Right.
And so with all of that, harvesting and turning over of the soil, mixing it all up and so forth, and then planting the new seeds and a new crop going, by the next summer, in not all, but in some of the crop circles, the energy is still there from the previous summer's crop circle. And there was one man I know, an Englishman, who really noticed exactly where in one particular field a crop circle had been made. And that one seemed to have this unusual energy in it. And he had a way of locating the exact spot in the field, according to different trees and so forth. And anyway, he went back into the field for 8 subsequent summers, 8 subsequent crops, even different kinds of crops from one summer to the next. And that energy from the original crop circle was still there.
Wow.
Now, I know about 8 years of his research of doing that. He may have continued even after that. I don't know. I don't have that information. But anyway, it's clear that the crop circle energy in a crop circle does remain there year after year, no matter what the next year's crop is. So something is really happening here that humans cannot do. This with the man-made crop circles, there's no energy at the beginning, no energy through that whole season, no energy in that crop circle or in that location.
Well,
Uh,
Diane has a good question on this one. She says, how does the energy affect the newly planted crops?
well, the newly planted crops seem to just grow up absolutely fine. And an interesting thing too is that if you're up in a little plane or a helicopter, which I did many times, flying over the fields looking for crop circles, and you look down and you might see a field of this year's crop, and you don't see a crop circle, but you see what we call it a pattern or a ghost or a shadow of the previous year's crop circle
Oh,
showing through. Like, in other words, a little darker. Looks like the land is a little darker. The ground is a little darker under this year's crop circle. So
you'd
you
almost think it would
know,
be more, it would be fertilized better. That energy, it seems like it would do better.
probably so. Yeah. So, and that's exciting to me to see that, oh, wow, the energy of last year's crop circle is still there. And it might be a totally different crop. One year it might be wheat, another year it might be barley, or it might be oats, or it might be oilseed canola, or a few other types of crops. Those are the main ones. And yet there's last year's crop circle showing through. So something clearly is really being changed there, even in the land. And some people have not only studied the crop circle plants themselves, but they've studied the soil under the crop circle plants. And they've noticed there are changes in the soil, mineral changes, actually. So I think it's great that there are people in various disciplines who are involved in this phenomenon and go out and measure. And usually they're very scientifically oriented people anyway. And, they really take records. They do made their own charts, collect their own data. So there is something definitely happening here that we can't really overlook unless we just don't care.
Right. So what are the theories of the creation of the, or who are creating them? What are the theories out there?
Well, I mentioned a few of the sightings that have happened. So those all add up to various theories of how they're made. But there's another theory, too, which is Dr. Levengood eventually came to consider and promote. He thought it was quite likely that somehow, he didn't say exactly how, but somehow the patterns were coming from the earth itself. In other words, these are messages from the earth.
Oh,
Now, we don't all agree with that, but that is one of the theories that has been put forth.
that's a pretty
Uh,
good
and,
theory. I mean, that kind of makes sense coming from, say, inner earth beings that would be creating that.
right, or from Gaia
Gaia
herself,
herself. Yeah.
the earth herself. Uh, and then maybe my own thought is that um, theory, I have to say, is that it may be a combination.
Right.
I have always assumed, guessed that the patterns were coming somehow from above, especially because of the people who have seen the beams of light coming down, making a crop circle.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
they may be made in a variety of ways, but the remarkable thing is that there definitely seems to be intelligence behind the making of a crop circle. I mean, these aren't little random little doodles that
No,
mean nothing,
interesting to know what was
symbols,
in those orbs.
specific, So shall I show you some more pictures
Yes, definitely.
of
Show us some more
something?
pictures.
Okay. The first one that really got me devoted to the crop circle phenomenon in 1991 was one at a place
Oh, wow. Yeah.
called Barbary Castle. And this crop circle was the one particular one that drew the attention of many people in 1991. And even in subsequent years, many people I met in crop circle said that the crop circle that inspired them to go to England, make all the trouble to uh, be there and investigate it, walk out in the fields. It's not easy in many cases to get to a crop circle. Um, that the one that really inspired them to do that was that when I showed up, the Barbary Castle crop circle, and with that one, we recognized that, my goodness, there was something really happening there. And then the patterns from there began to be more and more developed each year, more so. And very soon, in fact, even that same year, 1991, there were patterns that looked kind of like a barbell with a line in the middle and a circle at each end. And they became more elaborate with kind of a semicircle around one of the ends and so forth. And then during the 1990s, they developed further into these long pictograms.
Well, I'm going to throw a theory out there.
This particular crop circle pattern in 1999 was 1,200 feet long.
Wow.
With all of these little design elements. And there was another one right near this pattern that was 1,000 feet long, kind of a curvy long pattern. But anyway, we began to realize, well, you know, these are really pretty complex after all, and long. And
With going with the Gaia theory, what about the elementals? To me, that would seem like that would be right up their alley to create these crop circles, would be the elementals.
I think that could very well be a contributing factor. And again, we don't know because we don't see elemental, or most people don't see them. I
Yeah.
think there are some people who have a different kind of sight, have some psychic ingredients in their sight ability, and they claim to see elementals. Most of us don't,
Oh,
even though.
I see them. They really visit me in Mount Shasta. Yeah.
Oh, good. What do they look like?
Well, mine look different than what most people's look like. The first set that showed up were gnomes. They look like gnomes. And
Oh,
then,
really?
yeah, and my second set that showed up looked like these beings riding fruit and vegetables. And they look like little bitty humans, and they were riding fruits and vegetables. So I don't know how to classify that, but they're the ones I deal with the most. And so I'm just assuming they're part of air. I'm not real sure, maybe part of the fairies, but they're just little humans riding fruits and vegetables.
How wonderful that you can see them.
Yes.
I would love to see them. I would love to see fairies. I do truly believe that they exist
Right.
and that they are very much part of nature.
Right. It
And
just seems like to me that would be the practical answer for all of it, would be that it would be them creating these crop circles. And
well, that is a very good thought.
yeah,
And maybe they combine with some other kinds of forces too.
right.
Uh,
They do combine with a lot of forces.
Maybe they carry out the design made by some other kind of intelligence. In
Mhm.
any event, there's obviously intelligence involved in this. As I said, they're not just little squiggles and random patterns. So I can show you some more too. By 1996, we began to have whoops. Uh,
Oh, there you go. Oh,
yeah. Now this is called a Julia set. It is fractal geometry.
looks like a conch shell.
Right, and of course it can be tipped in different ways. But anyway, it's a succession of circles from which there are other circles radiating. And this one was made in the daytime, which is very unusual. The first one that we know of that was made in the daytime, right along a major road that went near Stonehenge.
Really?
And during commuter hour, about 5:30 in the afternoon, suddenly this crop circle was made, and a lot of people saw that it was there. Nobody has described what they saw making it, but just suddenly, quickly, it was there, and motorists stopped their cars and parked along the highway there and walked into the field to discover this particular crop circle. So this was the beginning of the patterns, quite a number of patterns over the years that involved fractal geometry, Julia set geometry. So that pattern went on in various iterations. And even the same year, 1996, this one,
That's a little fuzzy right now.
yeah.
Can
Anyway,
you
this
see it?
what we call, I wonder why it's so fuzzy. This way we call it
There we go. It's getting clearer.
a triple Julia set. There are three of these arms of fractal geometries, and each circle had a different kind of swirled center in it.
Wow.
And yet, probably this whole pattern, as complex as it is, probably took 7 or 10 seconds to make in the middle of the night.
That's amazing.
Julia's sets kept on being developed over the years until finally.
Oh, yeah. That's quite intricate.
Finally, there was, this crop circle on top of a hill made during a very stormy night. And yet it has, well, it's 409 feet in diameter and has 800 or so crop circles, single circles in it, in that whole pattern. So this was really just glorious, and ultimate. People refer to it as the Catherine wheel.
Okay.
So anyway, I love these Julia set geometry forms. And then there are others too, like this one.
Now it's coming in and out. Pull it back a little bit more.
Trouble is, as I hold it up, I can't see it. It blocks my view. Yeah. Anyway, this one has lots and lots of even features, and again, made in several seconds, we believe. And this one shows a torus of energy. And when this was made, the weekend it was made, there was a conference about 2 hours drive away in Glastonbury, England. And a physicist named Jim Lyons was giving a lecture about crop circles about energy, giving a lecture about energy. And he showed a beautiful diagram of a torus, kind of like a donut or a bagel with the energy moving in from.
Wow.
Yeah. And he said that's a very, very major principle in the whole field of physics and the
Mhm.
study of energy. So he was giving that lecture on a Saturday afternoon at that conference. And then that night, 2 hours away by car, the crop circle was that crop circle with a torus design was made in the fields of England. So again, well, I have learned this so much with studying the whole extraterrestrial phenomenon too, that the beings know so much about what's going on here with us on Earth, or those who care.
Oh
Sure,
yeah.
zillions who don't pay attention to that, but there are many who do. And so if they are involved in this phenomenon, they knew that that man was giving that lecture about the toroid of energy and then created that pattern in the field that night. You know, it couldn't
Yes.
just be total coincidence. I
No,
think,
I
I
bet
think,
he was thrilled to see it.
yes, oh, yes. And just amazed. So you see, all of this study that I was doing every summer with crop circles went right along with all the regression work that I was doing during the rest of the year, and even regressing some people in England
Well,
on
were
my.
you able to regress anybody about the crop circles and get information?
No, I was always hoping that that would happen. But no, I can't say that I did. Um, but it seemed to me that in terms of my own personal life, that there were two major tracks going along of development, learning, excitement.
Mhm.
One was the crop circles, and one was the extraterrestrial encounters that people were having. And then, of course, all of this opened up in both cases, opened my awareness to other dimensions of reality and other beings in those other dimensions, and how that can come to us too here on Earth, that can affect us. Many people are having experiences with other dimensional beings who come and visit them, sometimes take them away, sometimes just visit them. And those beings tend to look more like beings of light, rather than physical beings in the way that we have physical bodies. And some of the beings look more physical, some of the extraterrestrials. But there are so many people uh, who are having experiences with these other dimensional beings, in terms of visits, in terms of being taken with them, sometimes out of body.
Mine's all above. My
Yes,
experiences
I
is
think
all
so.
above, with the lights, with the beams, mine are all over the place.
Right.
I've I've seen so much.
Oh, yes. I mean, I think it's just glorious.
And most of the
What's
people in the chat are the same way, which, this channel kind of caters to people having these kind of experiences.
Yes, yes. So that's another thing too, that I've been more and more interested in people's channeling. I did not do that myself, but I certainly learn a lot and appreciate very much that there are some other people who have that wonderful ability. So, anyway, make a long story short, I think it's very profound and exciting that there are many different aspects of reality that are coming to us these days, that certain people are very aware of, certain people
Well,
experience.
your abilities to facilitate people in these experiences and to find out about them and get the more details of it, that's a gift in itself that you have.
Oh, thank you. Well, I consider that my important role, my contribution. Uh, I'm not a channel. I don't have a lot of psychic abilities. I have moments, but just a little bit here and there. But I am very dedicated to bringing learning about these things and bringing the information out, sharing it. I think it helps to open up everybody to larger realities, which I think is a good thing. You know,
Okay.
we have
We
so
have just
much going on.
yeah, we have a few minutes left. So, Barbara, tell everybody what you do and how they can get in contact with you.
Oh, okay. Well, mostly these days, well, first of all, I was a licensed psychotherapist for many, many years, since 1976. And then in the mid 80s, I got into past life regression therapy. Had 5 years of training in that. And then it morphed into, by 1991, doing regressions not only to past lives, but to people's extraterrestrial visits and encounters, and all that has opened up from that, and of course the crop circles as well. So nowadays, I have retired from my regular psychotherapy practice and am concentrating on doing hypnotic regressions. And people can still come for regressions for finding out about past lives or finding out about the source of any particular issue or problem that they have. Uh, and mostly, I'm doing regressions uh, that open up the person's total memory of their extraterrestrial encounters or other dimensional encounters. So that is a very wonderful work, and people who wonder if they've had those experiences or who know they've had some very peculiar things happen and they wonder what more there might have been. They are very, very appreciative of coming and finding out more. And in the past couple of years and currently, more and more people are coming to have a regression to find out from their own higher self and from their guides about their main purpose
Mhm.
in being here in this particular lifetime. And people really appreciate that because they get to a certain point in life, many of them, maybe in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, when they really wonder why they are here in life. What's the point of it for them individually? And many of them have a sense that there's something that they're supposed to do that they had agreed on the soul level to do. And they want to find out specifically what that is so that they can use the rest of their years of their life doing that.
Yeah, can you give us examples of what people's purposes that you have found, especially the odd ones?
Yes, well, like some people seem to have the mission of doing physical healing. And maybe they have done Reiki healing or something, but once they realize that, oh, okay, their soul actually decided that's what the main thing they're coming to do to help people in that way, then they might take extra training in healing or setting up a studio where they can actually do that full time. That's just one example. Or maybe they've decided to create music that would bring in some of the higher realities. Or maybe they came to be a spokesperson for extraterrestrial beings, the ones who visit and interact with people. There can be quite a number of things, or sometimes it's just to be a good listener, really caring about people and listening to the people whom they meet and have the opportunity to talk with. Uh, it usually has a broader outreach, such as these things, they're making their abilities available to anybody, to quite a number of people. But some of it now could be, in one case, one woman came and she found out her mission was to really work for world peace. And that meant that she had to get involved with governments
Oh,
and diplomats and, really try to figure out in a very practical way how to carry out this mission of working toward world peace. It's the same with people who learn that their mission is about saving the planet itself, about ecology. And they may have already had interest in that, but when they find out that that's their mission, they'll really get busy exploring that whole field, becoming much more knowledgeable and doing things publicly to draw attention to the problems that we have with our ecology. Another woman I know found out that her mission is about climate change. Not that she individually could do something about changing the whole Earth's climate, but she could be much more involved and much more vocal, much more educated about what's going on really in terms of climate change. And she has gathered other people around her now, and they are really very seriously studying this and giving lectures and courses about this.
oh well.
Some have found out that they are sharing information from themselves and from other people about all of these subjects that we're talking about. And you may be one of those, Dr. Gail, that making all of this more publicly known, sort of stimulating the curiosity, the interest, the intelligence of viewers to learning more about these, shall we say, more unusual things. So anyway, there's a whole raft of different kinds of missions that have come out from individual people I have worked with. So one of the wonderful things about regression is that it can help us get in touch with our own higher selves and get in touch with our own soul who decided to incarnate in this lifetime.
Right.
And was that soul considering? What were some of the agreements that that soul made in coming into this lifetime? So there are lots of people, of course, I'm sure, in the world who really don't think of their lives as having a particular purpose or
Right.
don't realize that there was a choice of their soul in coming here. I mean, they just don't have that framework of thinking. So they don't think about these things. They don't wonder. They're very involved in worldly affairs. That's probably most of the people in the world. However, there are a lot of people who are wondering about more.
Right.
The kinds of people who come to me, which I totally welcome. I myself have always wondered about more. What is there in reality? And I am very pleased to be finding out a lot about what there is in reality.
How can people get in touch with you to have a session with you, Barbara?
I think the easiest way really is to go to my website, and which I will give, and there's a place in the website where you can type in a message that appears in my email. And then when I see that email, as soon as I can, I will respond to that and then communicate further with the person, usually by text message. It's quicker and easier for me. So my website is barbaralamregression.com. I'll repeat that. Barbara Lamb, Lamb, regression.com. So you can do that. You can also order my books. I have 5 books that I have co-authored, and starting with Crop Circles Revealed back in the year 2000, and other books um, more about people's encounters with extraterrestrial beings. There's even a book there for children about children's experiences with the extraterrestrial beings. And it's very positively oriented, and it's based on real children I have worked with who have had real extraterrestrial experiences. So that one is helpful for children and for the parents.
Oh yeah, that's got to be helpful. Well,
Anybody,
Millie, thank you. Millie's put your website in the chat. Also, in my information box on the show, you'll find all the information about Barbara. That will be her website and her YouTube channel that you can look at also. But anyway, Barbara, we need to end this. It's always so much information. You'll be back again next month. We already have it scheduled.
right? Good.
So
I enjoy this. Yes.
yes. So anyway, thank you. Thank you everybody for being here. Thanks for moderators for making this a safe place for us to talk about these things. And my
Yes.
next show will be on Saturday where we'll be doing color therapy. Anyway, we'll see y'all later. All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.